Salute is a program for and about men and women who have served our country. Our program includes news about the laws that affect veterans, information on benefits and services, and news from veterans organizations. And now, our host, Bob Peters.
Hello and welcome to Salute. My guests today are from the Cornerstone Hospice. We have my old friend, George Wanberg, coming back. Welcome back, George. U.S. Marine. What's a Marine? Always a Marine.
That's exactly right.
And Alex Newsom, and that's your boss.
That's my boss.
Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
Alex, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name is Alex Newsom. I'm the Veterans Program Supervisor for Cornerstone Hospice, and I head up the program that honors our nation's veterans as they face the end of life.
You were a military veteran?
Yes, sir. I served for approximately 7.5 years in the 101st Airborne as a combat medic.
All right. Well, thank you for your service, and
You're welcome.
thank you for what you do. I've had this guy on the show a couple times, and I get to meet him at different events, and I know what a terrific job he does, too. By the way, congratulations. Now you're an employee now.
I am. I'm doing something that I love. I get paid for something I love to do, and that's marvelous.
Yeah.
It's the best.
George was a volunteer for our Cornerstone Salutes program for, what, approximately 4 years. And now
took him that long to get him straightened out.
That's right, exactly right.
He's a Marine, you know.
Yeah, they wanted to make sure I did it right.
They're trainable. So, yeah, we were actually able to bring George on board on a part-time basis to assist with this veterans program. He definitely has a heart for veterans, and it shows. So.
What is the Salute program? You want to tell us a little bit about it?
Well, Cornerstone Salutes program is something that we've created here locally with Cornerstone Hospice for patients in our 7 counties. But it originated from the seeds of the We Honor Veterans initiative, which was put together by the Veterans Administration and our parent organization called the National Hospice and Palliative Care Organization. What that is it's a program for hospice providers on how to better care for veterans as they near the end of life. Through our experience, we've learned that veterans die differently, especially combat veterans. And through the We Honor Veterans initiative, we've been able to educate our clinicians, our physicians, nurses, social workers, and chaplains on how to address those issues at bedside. And through that, we developed the Cornerstone Salutes program. We've incorporated the best practice from the We Honor Veterans initiative and added some nuances of our own, which include a pinning ceremony. We're actually in the position to thank our veterans while they're still here for our service, and more than likely we're the last people to do so. So we have created a custom pinning ceremony with a certificate and a pin for these veterans that we present, and we're also thanking the families for their contribution to that soldier's military service. No soldier fights alone. It's certainly something the entire family participates in. So we're recognizing the spouse in many cases and thanking the family for their sacrifice for the service of their loved one.
Yeah, I think that's this is a fantastic program. I've known George from a little bit in the past, and you know, veterans have a bond. There's always a bond with a veteran, and it's lots of times veterans don't even talk about what happened.
That's right.
You know, and I think what you're doing is fantastic.
Well, you bring up a good point, that veteran-to-veteran connection. This is not something that our paid employees go out and do. We feel it's very significant for a veteran to be thanked by a veteran. So we utilize volunteers from the community, specifically veteran volunteers for the community. It does require some training. It's a 2 8-hour day training session with a little bit more additional information, but we like to put the call out for any veterans that have a heart for veterans and for hospice to get in contact with us and go through the training and be a part of these pinning ceremonies. They're extremely rewarding, not only for the patient and the family, but also for the veteran that's doing the pinning. I've done many of them myself, and it's definitely helped me on my journey as a veteran.
Yeah. You know,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
George.
you were talking about a lot of these veterans will not speak to anybody else except a fellow veteran. And I did a pinning at the plantations a month or so ago, and this gentleman was 91 years old. He was an aircraft pilot in the Aleutian Islands going after Jap subs. And his wife knew a little bit, but we put together this presentation, and she invited all of his military friends in. There must have been 25 to 30 people. And he didn't know what to expect, and I started to do it. I did the pinning, and you could just see the tears in his eyes roll up. And before I knew it, I looked around, and after the pinning was done, we were in a kind of a circle. So I started asking him questions. And he started talking. And talking about his military experience, which his wife hadn't heard before, and which her children have never heard before. And then I told the veterans, start talking to him right now. And he divulged some things that nobody's ever heard before, right in front of this big group. But there was veteran on veteran. And it brought his guard down a little bit.
Yeah, that's what we tried to do with our salute right here. Yeah. Our salute, but we tried to get those people on to talk about their experiences.
Sure.
You know, not that we're glorifying war or anything,
no.
but we are glorifying what the American spirit and what they've done
exactly right.
for our country.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
And so anytime anybody wants to come on and go on Lakefront TV.
We'll definitely keep that in mind.
Throw a plug.
Yeah, definitely will.
Well, you know, another part of the Cornerstone Salutes program, it's not just about doing a pinning ceremony and that brief point. That is definitely the focus and the pinnacle. But we also can provide veteran volunteers to go out and conduct a life review and archive that in the Library of Congress. Right. We encourage our veteran volunteers to do more than just the pinning ceremony, to sit with the patient, to read, to go out and shop, to give some respite to the caregivers that are caring for that veteran, and also, again, to encourage that life review. A lot of time at the end of life, feelings of guilt and some other emotional issues can come up as a regard to that military service, and that veteran-to-veteran connection erases those barriers immediately, and that bond of trust is there. We share a common value, a common goal, and a lot of times that can be very healing for that patient and for that family at the end of life. So that veteran-to-veteran connection is definitely huge.
Yeah, I unfortunately I've known some people who have passed, and I've seen what hospice can do, and it's you guys do a great job, you men and women.
Well, and the need for veterans is tremendous. 1 out of every 4 deaths in America is a veteran, and that number is expected to grow. You know, we're bringing more veterans home from Afghanistan and Iraq. Right now, approximately 36% of the veteran population is over age 65 and from the Vietnam era. So we're going to see a new phase of veterans move into the hospice arena as time goes on. We're seeing fewer and fewer World War II veterans and more from the Vietnam era. And with that era of war, we're seeing more issues at the end of life in regards to PTSD and some other issues that are unique to that engagement. So,
now let me ask you. You need volunteers, but we need a phone number or a website or something. And along with that, you know, I got a question. Okay, maybe this person is at home, not necessarily in hospice care. You have a hospice person come in and visit. If the family wanted some information.
Well, first of all, hospice is anywhere where the patient resides. Okay. We can provide hospice services, and approximately 85% of our patients reside in their own home, where we send a nurse, a social worker, a chaplain, and a physician to their home to provide palliative care, which is to treat their symptoms, to make them comfortable. And we also have hospice houses, and a hospice patient can receive those services in an assisted living facility or a nursing home. So we bring hospice to wherever home is. But yes, if anybody is interested in volunteering for Cornerstone Hospice, they can visit our website, www.cornerstonehospice.org. There is an online application. Once you fill that out and submit it, one of our volunteer coordinators will contact you and let you know when the next training session is going to be in, and find out what you're most accustomed to, or where your skills could be brought to bear, and what it is you're wanting to volunteer for.
Yeah. How is the Salutes program funded?
That's a great point, and this is not something that Medicare reimburses us for. The Cornerstone Salutes program is funded entirely by our foundation, Cornerstone Hospice Foundation, which in turn is completely supported 100% by local contributions. I'd like to mention and give a big thank you to the Leesburg Rotary Club and the AMVETS post 1992 in Mount Dora, Florida. Both of those organizations have made significant contributions exclusively for the Salutes program. Those monies help us train our physicians, nurses, social workers, and chaplains on how to bring these skills to the bedside of our veterans, as well as paying for the certificates, the pins, and other administrative needs to conduct these programs for our veterans.
Is there a cost to the patient?
Absolutely no cost. This is something that our foundation does because it's the right thing to do. These veterans have sacrificed so much for our freedom and for our nation, and it's the least that we can do as an organization to thank them and also to restore some dignity and some validation to a person that's experienced a life-limiting illness. It's a huge impact on the patient and the family.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Alex, this has to be a very rewarding program to yourself as individuals, you know. Could you give us a little insight as to what you see and what it's like?
Well, I can give you a recent example of a veteran and family that we were able to touch through the Cornerstone Salutes program. We had a Vietnam veteran down in Polk County that was dealing with lung cancer, terminal lung cancer. I went out to initially visit this veteran to assist him with applying for VA benefits. And through the conversation and through the visit with this veteran, learned that it was his dying wish to be buried in his military uniform, but had lost it in a fire many, many, many years ago in New York. Again, this is a Vietnam veteran who was probably never properly thanked or acknowledged, and probably had not put on his uniform since that time. Because this is funded through our foundation, we're able to do sometimes some extra special things. So when we scheduled the salute ceremony for this patient, at the very same time, we were actually able to present him with a replacement dress green Army uniform. And you know, George was there with me, and this patient had been seated, and you could tell he was very winded, just keeping up conversation and answering questions and talking. But when we presented him that uniform, he stood up ramrod straight at attention and put that jacket on, and he had tears in his eyes. He was overwhelmed that somebody would do something, and he finally felt properly acknowledged for his military service to our country. And it's just a great example of how something so small can have such a huge impact at the end of life. To see him in that uniform and to see the excitement in his eyes that he was going to be able to put his service ribbons and sew his chevrons and service stripes on that uniform and have a dying wish fulfilled, it was rewarding to be a part of that, but I imagine on his end, it was just as rewarding, if not more so.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And the family to see all that, too, is like a...
Absolutely. And we've got many stories like that. I can tell you, you mentioned at the opening of the show, once a Marine, always a Marine. Probably the most impactful salutes that I had conducted was for a Marine, and I'm Army, paratrooper. I never gave a lot of credence to that phrase. I thought, once in the Coast Guard, always in the Coast Guard. We're all proud of our service is what I'm getting at. And I don't mean any disrespect to any branch of service by any means, but that wasn't something that I had internalized until this salutes. This salutes was for a Marine. This Marine was on our hospice service for end-stage Alzheimer and dementia. For those of you who are not aware of that condition, it robs a patient of their ability to speak, communicate effectively, and in the end stages, their ability to move or even be mobile. And this patient definitely was in the end stages of the disease. I did the salutes on a Saturday on my own time, and I grumbled a little bit. It was a long drive from Mount Dora to Polk County. But when I arrived at the patient's home, the daughter-in-law approached me and gave me a brief synopsis of the patient's condition. Number one, she said, he's not going to even know that you're here. This is for his children and for the family. She said,
I'm not so sure about that.
Well, and we'll get to that. You're right on the nose. The patient was contracted in the bed, and she mentioned that he could only do this. And she thought that the patient, that her father-in-law was operating a remote control, but there was obviously no television even in the room. So after getting a brief description of his condition, we went into the patient's room, and I conducted this right at his bedside. And I went through the proclamation where I formally thank that particular person or that veteran for their service to America. And at the end, I state his name and step back and snap off a salute. And I'll be darned if this gentleman, this Marine, didn't sit up in his bed, much to the astoundment of everybody in the room, because he had been in that contracted position for months, look me dead in the eye, and return that salute just as smart as probably the day that he graduated from boot camp.
Wow.
After he returned that salute, he returned to his contracted position, and I looked at the family, and his sons, his daughter-in-law, his wife were all in tears. They hadn't seen that much movement out of that patient, and that just spoke to me. and validated the phrase, once a Marine, always a Marine. I mean, that defies medical description in my opinion and my observation, but that spirit was still very much alive and very much a part of him. That Marine knew who I was, what I was doing, and he was able to communicate that back by returning that salute. The daughter-in-law contacted me shortly after that particular salute and said, you know, I never knew my father-in-law as a Marine. Married his son many years after he took off the uniform, but she called to thank me. She goes, now I got to know him as a Marine. For that moment, he was. And that memory is persisted with the son and with the daughter-in-law, and I guarantee every other family member that was present, not that their family member was in a state of decline and unhealthy and unhappy, but they remembered him as a Marine. And they remembered the pride that he had in his service to our country, and that was a wonderful gift to be able to give to a patient and to a family.
Yeah, and the family benefited big from that too, because you know, now they knew more about the man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because I think one of the things we try to do when we go into a person's home or in a facility, I always, when I go in and I know somebody's from the Army or the Air Force or the Navy, I always say, you have to forgive me. That's the first thing I say to them. And most of the time they'll look up and say, why? Well, because I was in the Marine Corps, and this big smile comes out of their face, because we have this competition among all the services, but it's a love competition. And I try to, and I think Alex does, and most of the volunteers, we try to talk to them first. Tell me about your experiences. And they start talking about it and talking about it. And then by the time, you know, the family's in tears half the time. And by the time you actually go to the salutes where we actually read the citation and give them a certificate and pin them, and it's just an incredible time. And I had one particular patient that I went and saw who I knew. And he had several hours to live after that. He passed away a few hours after I left. But when I got to his home, he was conscious. And he's on his bed, and the bed's reclined. And so I start talking to him. And I said, Leroy, how you doing, brother? And I just want to come here and thank you, you know, for what you've done for us. And then he kind of dozed off a little bit. And so I proceeded to do the pinning. And when I came to the salute, and I snapped one, and all of a sudden his hands come off the bed, his right hand, to salute me back. And I'm looking at, there must have been 30 or 40 people in the room. His neighbors were there, his family had flown in. It wasn't a dry eye. I said, just don't do this to me, because I won't be able to make it through it.
Yeah.
And he saluted me, because one of the last things, what I was told that goes is your hearing. And so he knew exactly what was going on for him and how proud he was. And I've had a gentleman, I walked into this one home, he was in the Army in the Philippines. And when I walked into the home, he's sitting there in his chair, and he's got an envelope. And I went up to him, and I did my thing, and I said, well, what's that? He said, I want to show you my discharge papers.
Oh, wow.
You know, and he was so proud of that. And then he took me around, and he was ambulatory, and he got his scrapbook out of his time at the Philippines. And then he had his daughter get his samurai sword that he captured and bring it out to me. But the pride this gentleman had, and when I pinned him, the tears started flowing down his eyes, because most of these men and women are not, people just don't thank them for what they've done, even World War II vets. And I think one of the things that Alex and I try to do is when we talk to groups, we ask them, go on out, when you're in the mall, these guys are very obvious, go up and thank them. And you better be ready to hear about Iwo Jima, you better be ready to hear about Patton, you better be ready for somebody who might walk away. And be ready for some tears. And it's just amazing. We owe them a lot. We owe them everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
You know, you got to roughly, I mean, how many years you said you guys been doing this program?
The Cornerstone Salutes program has been in all of our 7 counties for approximately 4 years, and we're hoping that this can continue indefinitely.
I definitely, I encourage people to send in a donation or whatever,
sure.
and they would do that by sending it to our calling, whatever.
Visiting cornerstonehospice.org, and there is a way to connect with our foundation through the website.
How many people do you think in all those years, you keep track of how many pinning services you've done?
We have not kept track of how many, but I can tell you approximately over 200 veterans right now are on our service in one of our 7 counties that we serve. Not every veteran wants to be pinned, and sometimes veterans decline very quickly. some of our patients are not on service for very long, which is unfortunate. The hospice benefit is for 6 months, and it can be recertified beyond that. Unfortunately, people are coming to hospice later and later, and we're seeing these patients for sometimes only 5, 6, or 7 days. So we're not always able to pin every veteran. Every veteran doesn't want it. Some decline before we're able to get out there. But I tell you, it is our goal to offer the salutes and do this program for every single veteran that would like it.
Well, I thank you guys for what you do. And like I said, I've had some people I had to deal with through hospice, and I know how great hospice is.
It's marvelous.
But we're going to switch gears a little bit here, George.
Okay.
We were chatting a little bit about an event that's coming up.
Yes, sir.
Can you fill me in on that?
Yeah,
we're going to get it out here on Lakefront TV.
Yeah, I got a call from State Representative Larry Metz about 2 months ago. And Larry is a Marine captain. He's not of the Vietnam era, but he's been in the military and he loves veterans. And he's always had in his heart to do something for Vietnam veterans. And as you know, we were never honored when we came back, and that's why we've had over 225 Vietnam veterans kill themselves since the war. There's been no recognition of who we are for a lot of different reasons. And he wanted to put together some sort of event that honors Vietnam vets. And so he brought a committee together. And I've been appointed chairman of that committee. And because Larry, he's a politician, so he needed to step back. But he just wanted to bring the idea forward. So we're putting together an event on May the 18th, which is Saturday, Armed Forces Day in Tavares. And we're going to have a parade starting at 10 o'clock. We're going to go to Wooten Park after that parade is over with, and we're going to have a keynote speaker, which we're in the process now of looking for, an Oliver North type of keynote speaker. And we are just so excited about this, and it's all coming together. It's just amazing. And as soon as we find out who that is, then hopefully, Bob, I'll be able to sit down with you again and really give you some more details. But every military foundation or group that we've talked to so far, we're in. We want to be a part of this. I just got a call from a local church this morning. You're going to get $1,000 just to put towards this thing. And that was out of the blue.
So what is it going to be? It's going to be like a parade too? You're going to do a parade?
It's going to be a parade starting at 10 o'clock. And as a matter of fact, the Sheriff's Department is in. The city of Tavares is part of this thing.
You're going to get the school systems involved, hopefully
we're going to
get high school bands or something?
Get the kids. Well, we might even go for a military band. So we're in the process of talking to the Navy band right now and some other bands that see the availability. And it's going to be, monies too are an issue. So we're going to be putting this all together very shortly. I have a meeting next Wednesday, as a matter of fact, down at Larry Metz's office. And then we figure the parade's going to take about an hour. And then it's going to end up at Wooten Park. And the bandstand is going to be there for us. We're going to have a covering in case of inclement weather. It's all being put together, and we're just very excited about this. The VVA from the villages and all the local organizations are going to be a part of this as well. I'm chaplain of the Marine Corps League and Plantations. Our chapter is going to be highly involved with this as well. So we just want to thank these veterans and their families. And we can even foresee the families and children of Vietnam vets marching with us in this parade and honor them as well, because they need to be honored just as much as that veteran.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, I think that's one of the reasons I kind of do this show is I kind of hope younger people watch the show and then they could learn, but you know, from some of these people we've had on this show. And when I was up north, my Legion post was very good with that. You know, we got to the point on the Memorial Day, we'd have the parade and we'd have the kids march with us.
Sure,
too,
definitely,
you know?
it's marvelous.
It's cool.
Because
really
they understand what America's about by doing that. They're part of it. And I just think it's fantastic. And so we're excited. This is going to be something very special.
So we'll have you back on.
I appreciate that.
A month or so before, and we'll get all the info.
Gotcha.
But we don't want to take away from this show.
No, absolutely not.
Because this is a terrific program, and I appreciate you guys coming on. And I'm hoping out there the people watching this will say, hey, you know what, let's stop by Cornerstone and drop off a 10-spot.
There you go. That's what we're looking for.
Okay. So any closing, anything you want to say in any closing? Because we're just about out of time, guys. It goes fast, doesn't it?
It sure does. It sure does. Just in closing, I want to thank all our current volunteers that have participated in this program, not only for their service to America, but for their continued service to their comrades by coming out and volunteering and spending time with our veterans that are patients on hospice. And then really put the call out for other prior service members that still want to serve their country without putting on the uniform. I cannot tell you how rewarding it is from the volunteer standpoint to be a part of this. It may seem initially harsh dealing with a patient at the end of life or facing that, but I'm certain that most of our military veterans out there have faced a lot more. And as daunting as it may seem, it's a lot more rewarding on the back end than you might think. So even if you think you may not want to spend time with patients, there are other things within the Salutes program and within hospice that you can volunteer for and still make a great contribution. So please contact us through our website, cornerstonehospice.org, and volunteer.
Okay, very well put. And we are out of time.
That's it. Thank you very much, Bob.
And I want to thank you, my friend, for coming back.
Thank you.
Welcome home
Appreciate
again.
it. Thank
and
you.
thank you for your service,
Sure,
sir.
absolutely.
And what you guys do is fantastic.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, yeah. But I got to say goodbye. So this is how I do this.
Good.
To all our veterans out there, active military and their family, we salute you for all you do. Till next time. We are now entering our third year salute here at Lakefront TV. We've had many great guests and veterans organizations share their stories with us. We'd like to hear from you too. If you're a veteran or a veterans organization, Lake Sumter counties, please give us a call. Lakefront TV can be seen all over Lake County and the villages and worldwide at lakefronttv.com.